In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to replace your rear caliper on a Subaru Forester. It's located behind your rear wheels. All right, quick tech tip. You're going to use a pry bar to push your brake pedal down and jam it up against the front seat. And you do any sort of hydraulic brake work on your car. I'm going to use a 19mm socket to take the lug nuts off the rear wheel. Usually put the lug nut on the top for the last one. And keep a hand on it when I take it off. All right, so we're going to need a 12mm socket. We're going to disconnect this hose. There will be some brake fluid that comes out, so you're going to want to get a drip pan, put it below you. But because of our tech tip with the brake pedal being pushed down with a pry bar, it's not going to keep dripping all over the place. It'll only drip initially. So I am going to remove that, place it, I'll just jam it over here near the spring, get it out of my way. Next thing we're going to do is disconnect our slide bolts. Okay, so here we are. We're going to get this bolt out and the one way down here out with a 14mm socket. So I typically leave the top one in for a little bit until I get this bottom one out so the caliper doesn't fall off if it's loose on the rotor. So I'm going to put my caliper bolt off to the side so I don't lose it. I'm going to make a mental note that this one is the bottom one, in case they're different sizes for some reason. Get a good handle on the caliper before you take this second bolt out. Okay, now we're going to take it off and bring it over to our bench. All right, so I've put my old brake hose bolt back in so it doesn't leak all over the place, because the new caliper comes with one and new washers. And now I just compare parts, make sure everything looks right. We're going to be taking these pads out, putting them in the new one. We're going to check our slides to make sure they're nicely greased. You never just want to just throw one in there and not look at it. And yeah, so let's get started. I'm going to use the same size for these slide bolts. I'm going to take this apart here. You can also do this in the car. You can take out, you could take this bracket off of this bracket before taking everything out of the car. I like to do it this way just so I can compare and see what I'm getting into. So I'm going to take this slide bolt out. The new caliper comes with bolts, so you don't need to worry about reusing these. So now this comes apart. I'm going to put this below. We don't need this anymore. I'm going to take my pads out. I like to leave them the same way I take them out, just to remember which is which, in case I get interrupted. And I'm going to take our shims out. Make sure those look the same or similar. So here we are with our new caliper. I'm going to take it apart the same way. gonna leave my bolts right in there so I don't lose them. And this is when we're gonna investigate, see how well prepared these slides are. So don't be afraid to just twist and pull. And don't, break the boot. If it's stubborn, you can get a little flathead or something. Pull that off. Okay, and take it out. We're going to take this boot off. We're going to look at it. That doesn't look very prepped in my mind, so I'm going to add some grease. It's important you do that because you don't want these to get frozen inside, then your caliper won't work. And then you're going to have some serious brake problems. I'm going to put this in and out just to get some in there. And leave that off to the side. We're going to make sure our boot is on the same way as the other side that we haven't disconnected. Push that on. Slide this in. You're going to squeeze really hard. Get all that air out. You don't want any air in there. I usually pick this up if it feels like there's something in there, and that'll get all the air out. Okay, so I'm going to pull it out and make sure it boings back in. That way you know you have vacuum and not air. Now we're going to move on to our next one. Add a little more grease. And I'm going to stick some in here. Again, you're going to squeeze it in there. Get it in those ribs. We're going to put our bolt same way as the top now. And put it in there. Work it back and forth. Make sure that grease gets in there. You can push it down. Get all the air out. I'm going to pull it. Make sure it boings back. All right, so now we're ready to install our brake pads. We are going to add some caliper grease here. Just a little bit. I like to use my fingers. Now we're going to look and compare our old ones and see what we got. Make sure everything looks pretty good. All right, everything looks the same. So we're going to place these. In the brackets. All right. So now at this point, I'm ready. I'm going to install my bracket first and then put my caliper on. You can do it here if you want. I get a little turned around. If I do it on the bench, I like to see it on the rotor for me to comprehend where the pads go, because you don't want to install these backwards or upside down. So let's get back to the car. All right, so here we are. We're going to put our bracket back. I'm going to start my first bolt on the top so it holds it in place, and then we'll go to our bottom bolt. We are going to torque these to 49 foot-pounds. All right, so now we're going to make sure we put our brake pads in correctly. We're going to make sure the curve goes with the rotor. And this squealer is on the bottom. And now we're going to place our piston part. on. Again, I start the top bolt first because it's just easier, you can see it better. Now we're going to torque these to 20 foot-pounds. All right, so now we're going to put our hose on our new caliper, and we're going to undo this bolt. We're not going to lose our washers. I'm going to place this washer on the bolt. First, you got to put your bolt through, put your washer on the other side. Try to hold on to that bottom washer. Lower it down. Hand tighten first. You don't want to cross thread anything on a new caliper especially. You're going to use a 12mm socket to tighten it down. Once you get to tight, you're just going to snug it. All right, so now you can take your tech tip out and let the brake pedal free. All right, so now we have our drip pan underneath. We're going to do a gravity bleed. We're going to take our boot off. Don't lose it. You're going to put it back on when you're done. I'm going to go to my master cylinder and make sure the fluid is up to max. You're going to look at your cap and see what kind of brake fluid you need to top it off. This one is .3. Check your owner's manual, also if it's not on your cap. Going to make sure you have a clean surface there. Take your cap off. Check here. It says max. We haven't lost much, so we're just going to put a little bit in there. Put the cap back on, and let's go check our bleeder screw to make sure it's got a steady stream of brake fluid coming out. All right, so this looks good. I don't see any air bubbles coming out, so we're going to close this down. Snug it up. And we're going to check our brake pedal, make sure it's not squishy. If it's squishy, you probably need to do a all-wheel brake bleed, but it should be fine. So let's put our boot back on and check our pedal. All right, so I'm checking my pedal, pump it up a little bit. It's nice and high and firm. We're good. All right, so just spray clean off that little area where the brake fluid may have come out. You're going to recheck your master cylinder, make sure the fluid level is at max. You're going to put your wheel back on. You're going to torque it to 89 foot-pounds. Take a deep breath because this job's done. Reinstall your rear wheel. I like to put them on hand tight first before I zip them on. That way they're not cross-threaded. Start with the one on the bottom. And then I'll just walk the tire on. Then you're going to go in a star-like pattern and snug it up. We're going to torque these to 89 foot-pounds. Now we're going to torque our rear wheels to 89 foot-pounds in a star-like pattern. I usually check one more time, go all the way around, just to make sure I got them all. Wipe the cap, take the cap off, get something to siphon out the fluid. We use this turkey baster looking thing. You're going to take out your filter, place it on your rag, make sure you don't get brake fluid anywhere, it will take the paint off. You're going to place your hose down in there and siphon out the fluid. I have a drip pan ready. I'm going to go back in one more time just to make sure I got it all. Inspect your master cylinder, make sure the fluid is gone. Mine's good. I'm going to put my filter back in. Put the cap back on. And place my drip pan away from the job. We're going to look for max line. You're going to fill up your master cylinder with the recommended brake fluid. This one is .3 synthetic. After you do that, you're going to head to your first wheel to start the brake bleed procedure. All right, we're at our first wheel, the right rear. We're going to then go to our left rear. Then we're going to go to our right front and then our left front. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is take off this rubber boot. Don't lose it. You're going to put it back on when we're done. This is going to catch my brake fluid for me when I'm bleeding the brakes. Make sure you have a friend or somebody in the car to pump the brakes up for you. You can either use this or a drip pan. It does get really messy with a drip pan, so I do recommend getting a hose of some sort and placing it on the bleeder like that. After you place that on, you're going to ask your friend to pump the brake pedal up. So go ahead, pump it up. Holding. And then you're going to release. Floor. I'm going to close it. And I'm going to ask my friend to pump it up again. Okay. It's on the floor. Close it back up. Pump it up. Holding. Open it up. Floor. Okay, I'm going to close it. And now we're going to move on to our next wheel, which is the other side in the rear. All right, now that we've done the back wheels, we're going to come up and check our master to make sure there's enough fluid in there. I'm going to fill it up to max. Put our cap back on and continue our bleed procedure over on the passenger side front. All right, so we're going to take our rubber boot off over here. All right, pump it up. Holding. Floor. Closing. Pump it up, please. Open to the floor. Closing. Pump it up. Open to the floor. All right. Close that down. And now we're going to go to our number 4 wheel, driver's side front. Make sure you put your rubber boot back on your bleeder. All right, so now we're checking our master cylinder, making sure it's full to the max. I'll put our cap back on. Clean any mess and pump your brake pedal to make sure it's firm. If it's not, then bleed the entire system again. Torque your wheels to manufacturer's spec, which for this vehicle is 89 foot-pounds. Once you're done that, take your vehicle for a road test. Take a deep breath, because this job is done.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.